constant warfare.
May the best driver win.
Looking at the recently concluded GP and not seeing Mercedes Lewis is a big shock to everyone. Max Verstappen put on a masterclass at the Canadian Grand Prix and took charge to claim his 6th victory of the 2022 Formula One season and further strengthen his title defense. Meanwhile, Mercedes via Lewis Hamilton trailed Verstappen by 7 seconds. Not much if you think about it. Verstappen is now in red-hot form, sitting 46 points clear of Red Bull teammate Sergio Perez at the top of the standings, with Ferrari opponent Charles Leclerc a further 3 points back. Aside from all the shocking events at the Canadian GP, here are 10 facts we learned from last weekend. Number 10. Veteran Alonso is still up to his old tricks. According to one interesting statistic, Fernando Alonso's drive to the second fastest time in qualifying was his first front-row start in the hybrid era. Even though the results of the last 9 years haven't been there, the loud ovation from the Montreal grandstand on the main straight as the two-time winner exited the vehicle after his spectacular one-lap performance stated everything about his ongoing popularity. After a spectacular effort in the slick conditions, it was a shame that Alonso failed to push Verstappen into turn 1 and then faded with an engine air leak, severely limiting his remaining 20 laps. Even so, it was a classic Alonso performance when he declared over the team radio that he was 100 times quicker than teammate Esteban Ocon. 9. Hamilton's experience has really damaged his season. The Canadian statements provided the most insight into why George Russell joined Mercedes and seemed to have the measure of 7-time champion teammate Lewis Hamilton at all times. Poorly timed safety cars aided Russell's victory in 7 races. But there's another important thing to consider. Specifically, as Mercedes has failed to unlock its W13 creation, the 37-year-old has made do with experimental pace-sapping setups to figure out what makes the vehicle tick. Hamilton was ecstatic after securing a podium finish. He was chattier and more enthusiastic over team radio in the race, contrasting his dismal tones in Spain and Azerbaijan. This was not a driver who wanted to retire early after colliding with Kevin Magnussen, but one who was focused on a battle for the fastest lap while keeping a close watch on Charles Leclerc's development. Number 8. We can't ignore the threat of porpoising. Apart from his back problems, Lewis Hamilton claimed that the bouncing he experienced behind the wheel of his Mercedes W13 had resulted in greater headaches due to his 10G hits. Meanwhile, George Russell reported that the events in Baku had rendered him unable to view his pit board. Fearing that these impacts are merely the tip of the iceberg, the FIA has interfered on safety grounds to prevent the oscillations from sparking a massive shunt. The governing body declared on the eve of the Canadian Grand Prix that it would be watching events in Montreal and gathering data in preparation for the journey to Silverstone, where it will take action against vehicles that exceed allowable levels of vertical acceleration. 7. McLaren's backwards step is real and sizable. McLaren's performance in the first 2 rounds of the season was unimpressive due to a lack of mileage in testing and brake duct difficulties. Then a 5-6 finish in Australia, with Lando Norris leading Daniel Ricciardo, was ascribed to the track's suitability for the MCL36, a vehicle with good balance but not enough overall speed to sustain the woking trend of the previous 5 years. Similarly, Norris's podium at Imola was perceived as opportunistic, contradicting the team's position in the 2022 pecking order. After a 5-second penalty for pit lane speeding to exacerbate a botched double-stack pit stop, Canada, 11th for Ricciardo and 15th for Norris, quickly destroyed the pleasant feeling. Number 6. You can't ignore the toxicity of the paddock. Manipulate, play political games, disingenuous, Chinese whispers, just pitiful. If there was any chance that Formula One would enjoy a period of relative calm following the fallout from the 2021 Abu Dhabi title decider and the missile attack in Saudi Arabia, Toto Wolff's words prove that the new season will still have a contentious edge as team bosses squabble over the FIA's actions. This complaint is also about porpoising, with Red Bull enraged by a mid-season regulation that would aid rather than harm Mercedes if any setup alterations are applied. The Silver Arrows also dropped plans for a second floor stay in Canada, citing concerns that they would protest it. Number 5. Any Mercedes optimism should be double-checked. Mercedes and I have been here before. Toto Wolff estimated that the distance between Ferrari and Red Bull had been halved in Barcelona ahead of the downward steps of Monaco and Azerbaijan, which left George Russell and Lewis Hamilton in an uncomfortable mix of physical and emotional misery. Last weekend's 3-4 result was a significant improvement, even though it would have been a 5-6 if Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez had played in the front row as one might anticipate. Furthermore, Hamilton still finished 7 seconds behind race winner Max Verstappen, a deficit widened by the late race safety car which snarled the field. Mercedes had reportedly fixed the porpoising problem, but the car is still prone to another bouncing as it runs low and stiff to pound into the tarmac. Number 4. Leclerc can limit the damage. Given Max Verstappen's incredible run of form, Ferrari needs Charles Leclerc to win races to reduce the points gap and set up the spectacular title fight we all want to witness. And for Leclerc to win races, Ferrari must overcome its unreliability issues. By any standard, 5th place is insufficient for Leclerc to complete the task if his main challenger continues to win. However, as Leclerc battled from a grid penalty for a new engine, his recovery from 19th on the grid to collect 10 points in a race that wasn't messed up by adverse weather was a good enough return. It prevented Leclerc from losing the race on a day when the DRS train and a tough differential cost him dearly out of turn 10 for the vital drag into the last chicane. Number 3. Sainz should be taking the fight to Red Bull more often. Carlos Sainz claimed he felt more at ease in the mediocre 2021 Ferrari than in the more competitive ground effect 2022 contender. He claims that it explains the pace disparity between himself and teammate Charles Leclerc, although his crashes in Australia and Imola did not help matters. But with Charles Leclerc mostly out of the game due to grid penalties, Sainz stepped up to face Max Verstappen in Montreal. While Sainz pushed too hard on his final Q3 lap, losing time in the final chicane and losing a front-row grid spot to Fernando Alonso, he had the pace elsewhere and was the quickest driver on the track in the latter stages of the race. A point for the quickest lap shows that. Although a victory eluded him again, he made it a tight race with Verstappen taking advantage of the safety car to stop hard. Number 2. Ferrari problem fixed. For the second race in a row, Christian Horner has pitched a hypothesis. In Azerbaijan, he was confident Max Verstappen had the pace advantage on fresher tyres to pass Charles Leclerc on merit for victory before his engine blew up. Similarly, the Red Bull boss reckons they had a safety car and did not intervene to leave Carlos Sainz running in front on a one-stop strategy. Verstappen again had enough to come from behind and win. The Ferrari drivers have been in such favourable positions for the previous 2 races, at least in terms of track position, due to cat-like reflexes to virtual safety cars and full-blown safety cars. Number 1. Verstappen was rewarded with a virtuoso victory. It's hard to learn anything new from watching Max Verstappen dominate a weekend as he did in Canada. He'd previously stitched together perfect days. His most recent performance, though, embodied and double underlined his versatility. That was evident during a slick qualifying session. Carlos Sainz sped to the top of the times with a 1 minute 29.153 seconds in the final 5 minutes of Q2. Verstappen was the second driver to cross the finish line, mitigating track progression. He ran a time of 1 minute 27.764 seconds. His 1.389 second lead and pole position highlighted his superior performance in difficult circumstances. He then demonstrated a new approach to winning the next day. At the end of an epic struggle in Saudi Arabia, he outwitted Leclerc for DRS. He led the front in Canada by adding a string to his bow. There were several contentious and startling moments at the latest Grand Prix. What do you think will happen at the next Grand Prix? Comment below.